Hello, everyone. So good to see you again. It is EmblemCon Day 3. Thank you for joining us for yet another panel. We're here for a more artistic segment. Please welcome our panelists for this hour. Please take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm Stylish. I'm an artist that has worked on multiple Fire Emblem ROM hacks, and I've worked on making multiple portraits for those ROM hacks. And I want to share a bit of the knowledge and strategies I use to make a lot of these portraits and make them look unique while still fitting within the style of the Fire Emblem GBA games. Please use the time throughout the presentation to ask some questions in the chat. Right after the presentation, I'm gonna make some live edits of a sprite right during the panel, and I'll take that time to also answer some of the questions. So please ask questions throughout this presentation. So, what do you think of when I talk to you about Fire Emblem GBA? Maybe it's this beautiful stills of FE7 featuring Lyn. Or maybe it's the funny crit animations. Well, for me it's this. And when I mean this, I don't mean Ephraim. Don't get me wrong, I like the guy. I mean the portraits. The outside to me is really what screams Fire Emblem. And this is really what defines the identity of those games. And why does this matter? Like, why do I think it's that important? Well, if you're making a ROM hack, you're not only designing maps or rewriting dialogue, you're building a world. And a huge part of what makes that world feel alive is the characters. That's where the portraits come in. A good sprite doesn't just tell you who the character is, it shows you. It sells the tone, the personality, the vibe of the character, sometimes even before a single line of dialogue. If a character looks good, they're so much more likely to be appreciated, recognized, and generally stand out. And okay, now that we have a general idea, if you want to add your own character, what are the ways that you can do so? Well, you can recolor existing characters, for example, or you can use the Fire Emblem character creator tool, or obviously the most appealing and ideal result would be making fully custom portraits, but this is also what takes the most amount of time and skill. And obviously, you don't necessarily have the time to learn, or even just straight up draw these characters. And don't worry, I don't either. That's why we're going with secret option 4, splicing and creating characters from assets. But manually. This uses the large number of assets of the creator tool with the flexibility of being able to manually edit some things. For example, if I need the hair, or the coat, or part of the armor of a specific character, I could just grab them. For example, here you can see on this character that looks pretty much completely new, but if you're familiar with the games, you might identify where some of the assets are coming from. But the end result is something that definitely has its own identity. What are the rules? Well, if you make your own portraits, regardless of the method, there are a few things to keep in mind. First, the colors. The limit for a portrait is 16 colors, due to hardware limitations of the GBA. Well, I say 16, but it's actually more like 15, as one of the colors is always reserved for the transparency. Here you can see how Vanessa's portrait uses the full 15 available colors. 5 for the skin, 5 for the skin and 1 for the outline, 3 for her hair and eyes, 3 for the white of the armor, 2 for her orange shirt, and one on the gold trim. Using the colors you have intelligently is one of the most important things when making portraits. Here's a resource I often use when regarding the skin tones. I'll share it publicly in the server later today so that you can make use of it as well. It's really useful. Part 2, regarding the rules. At first you might think the sprite needs to fit inside this box, an 86 by 76 box. It's not exactly true. The head area is actually thinner, making it a weird inverted T shape. It might seem easy, but some portraits definitely cut it really close. And sometimes too close. Gab's portrait actually has a dent in it because of this very restriction. Want more tips? Well, don't forget shadows. Shading under the hair especially ties the hair to the head. Without shading, the hair can often kind of look like a wig. Like you can see on this character there. And be careful with colors. You don't want the dark colors of your sprite to be darker than the outline. You'll notice that on the Fire Emblem GBA sprites, the outline color isn't a pure black, it's actually a dark purple. And so you don't want the inside to be darker than it, or that would look very strange. If you want to make black, always make sure to use gray tones that are lighter than the purple outline. For example, this character has black hair, but the color doesn't end up darker than the outline. Also, if you want to use black and white, try not to use pure whites and blacks. Instead, shift them slightly towards colors. It helps a lot with the warmth of the design. Do you need a specific tool? Well, no, you don't. I just use MS Paint, so you honestly don't need more than that as long as you know what you're doing. Here's a quick spit paint to show my process. And yeah, the name of the game is really reusing assets where you can, because like this is just what saves time, right? When you're making so many portraits, like 40, 50 characters for ROM hack, you really cannot afford to make everything custom if you don't have the time. Anyways, yep, that was quite the short presentation, because most of the time is going to be my live edit, so I'm going to be moving on to the live edit right now. I'm gonna switch the screen. I'm screen sharing. Give me a second. Oop. There you go. So, I have two characters prepared for this, but I'm going to start with this one, and we can see more of the issues that are often caused by the character creator. Is it creates weird, for example, gaps on the hair, because it splices assets together of characters that haven't necessarily been made to work in this way together, and this can often lead to issues where it creates those weird gaps here. There's also the lack of shading I mentioned earlier. And also, if we count the colors, there's over 16 colors here. The sprite has, because there's these two browns in here that don't show up anywhere else, and this causes the total to be at 18 colors without even the background. But so the first thing to do if we want to fix this is to make sure that we reuse, for example, the skin colors. If we use the skin colors for these assets, well, first, then we're not going to have the issue of there being too many colors. So that's one, right? And the second thing we want to fix is this weird gap in the hair. It can be as simple as coloring it in. If we want to add some more texture, we also can. There you go. there, and now it doesn't really look like there's a weird hole in the hair anymore, so that's good. And next was the shading. So we really just want to make sure that there's some nice even shading around the hair. So let's add some of that. Right, and as Daniel is sharing on the panel room text, please, now is the time to send any questions my way if you have any, because otherwise I really don't have much to say about. I mean, I can talk about exactly what I'm doing, but especially for the other character I have, it's definitely gonna take longer than whatever I'm gonna be able to say. So please do help my panel by sharing questions. Otherwise, I can just start using questions I've prepared myself, but you know. Regardless, this would be like what a rough fix of this would be. The max number of colors was 16, but since one of the colors is the transparency, it's 15. Generally, if you want to have, generally what you want is if what you want is 5 skin tones, and then 3 colors for each of the additional things you have. For example, you would have for example, if you remember Vanessa earlier, Vanessa had her 3 hair colors, the 3 whites of the armor. You had the 2 oranges and 1 gold. And yes, 5 for the skin. You can see them right here as well. Here. 1 here for the lightest. The second one is this one. Third is this one. Fourth is this one. And fifth is this dark one here. I'm simply using MS Paint. Well, maybe you just don't have the most up-to-date one, I don't know, but mine has layers. But regardless, what I'm doing right now, I'm not using the layers. So layers does make it easier if you don't want to delete stuff, but they're not necessarily that important. By the way, like you can see, like right here, the hair area, how much better like this shading makes the hair feel on the head. How much like closer to an. I'm sorry. Like how much more cohesive it feels. Anyways, this is like if we want to maybe like spruce them up more later, we can look at them. Oh, one more thing, yeah. This character has 3 whole white pixels. That's it. You really want to avoid that. You don't want to use like you don't want to waste one of your precious 15 colors on 3 pixels. And you'll see that a lot of the Fire Emblem GBA sprites actually just use the skin color in the eyes to avoid this. But another thing we could do, for example, is if we want this color here to actually be lighter, if we want this to be like a very light blue, like this, for example. If we wanted this to be the color instead, we could we could use this and to be also be the white in the eyes. And since it's a different color than the skin, it would also stand out. So that's also something you could do. For example, I would need to change it all over, but yeah. Now this character. This character was also made with the character creator and has the same ear hole issue, and even the part of the ear gets cut off. But another issue that comes up, and that's why I also pulled up Joshua, because the code comes from him directly, and we can see the problem. This character doesn't have a neck, or at least his neck is much, much shorter. Because look where Joshua's head is, and like, yep, this character just has his head much lower. Because that's one of the problem when you use the character creator, you don't exactly have the perspective of where the assets should necessarily go. So one thing I like to do is I can just copy paste a bit, just this. I can fit it where it's supposed to go. And and you see also how his jacket gets cut off right under the chin. Because like the head was just lowered onto the jacket, and it just cut off part of the top part of the coat. So there's two things you'd want to do here. One, you'd want to reestablish that, but also you'd want to raise his head. So what I do here is I copy paste this. Up. Okay, and now that we have the head pretty much on its own, see, this is one place where the layers are actually really convenient, because then I can place it separately, put it higher so that it actually has a neck. Then go back on the previous layer and then add this. Entirely. Yeah. And there, that like now it looks more like the character has a bit more of a neck. You'd obviously want to add some shading, like in the correct areas, so that it looks more like it fits more within the character's head shape and stuff. But sure. It is also something that does come up a lot in FE portraits. Is pillow shading. Like you have more. There is more shading around the edges of everything. You'll see that pretty much around the edges of anything, like the coat, for example. There's more edges. Like there's more shading around the edges of the coat here. If I go back to go back to the other one here, like we can see that like around the edges of the hair, it looks like there's more shading as well. If around the edges of the cape here. Well, how do you avoid it in general? Well, I did show that some of the portraits cut it close, but it was the most extreme examples, right? It was stuff like that boss from FE7 that's really large, and it was Geb, who's one of the most notably large characters in FE8. You would really have to go out of your way to make very, very bulky characters, but and if it happens, you do have still ways to make sure it still fits. But one thing I would do is, for example, grab a character that you think has one of the most extreme examples of that size, and just make sure to stay around that size. One character that I often use for this is Oswin, because Oswin has a large armor and also reaches the maximal height of the character portraits. So, for example, if I grab Oswin right here, then just make sure that whatever characters you make still fit within this Oswin size. And it's not the most perfect example here, because here would be where the edge go, and here it would be around here. So it's not it's not entirely perfect, but yeah. Yes, there is actually differences, and what I specialize in FE8 style with the darker outlines, but FE6 and FE7 have those lighter outlines. They look more like storybooks, whereas FE8 features designs with more contrast. The style in and of itself and the style in and of itself are similar, but color-wise they're actually pretty different, because all the colors are more faded and more washed out in FE6 and FE7, whereas in FE8 the colors are more contrasted. I'll pull up some portraits of FE8 so that we can compare. Actually, no, I had Joshua pulled up, so actually I can just pull up Joshua again. Give me a second. There you go. You can the colors are much more vibrant in FE8, and it all goes with the fact that the outline is also a lot darker. When making a ROM hack, you'd want to know from the get-go which you'd want. There's no problem technical limitations wise, because each portrait has its own limit. So if you wanted to have a character with a different outline, you could, but for the stylistic integrity of a ROM hack, I would entirely recommend having the same style throughout. In which case, I would recommend that you choose from the start if you want to go with FE6, FE7 style or FE8 style. I prefer the FE8 one myself, because I like when things look more colorful and more vibrant. It really depends on how long I'm willing to invest into it, and how many aspects I'm willing to make custom. But if it's as simple as just fixing holes in the in the hair like I did for this character here, then it took at most like a few minutes. Of course, like I'd want maybe to work on the colors a bit, or maybe like I would want to change the colors around so that it fit better, or maybe I want to add some outlines here and there, or add some more shading so that it looks better. But so the hacks I'm currently working on are still in progress, but if you want, I can share a link to a dev diary video that I've recorded, where I talk about my work in the hack, and yeah. And if you want to see more of my work, I do have social media and also a VGen where I post what I do on commissions, etc. Well, if you want to do side profiles like Garcia or Elfilin, honestly, I would say save yourself the trouble and use those portraits as a basis when making those new characters, right? Like, if you want to make a character that is a side profile, then you should probably use just a character with a side profile as the base for them. It's gonna make your life a whole lot easier than trying to like take a character that isn't that. Like, if you want to make sprites that are fully custom, then you probably have more than enough skill to do so if you think that you can. But this panel specifically focuses on splicing assets together to simplify things. In which case, for example, if you'd want to make a sideways profile, I would maybe wrap this portrait as a base, for example. In which case, then if I have this as a base, I could change the hair, change etc. And yeah. Just because the biggest idea for me is like, if I'm making one of these, then I'm willing to invest as much time as I can into it. If I have to make 50 of them, right, then I really don't want to spend more than, like, let's say 2 hours on one. Oh, Minilin is the person that edited the dev diary video I mentioned. Right. I was still working on this guy. Up. I wouldn't say that I know any of them. I'm sorry. I'm sure they are. I just am not familiar. I'm sorry. This is not, to be entirely honest, it's not something I really looked into myself, as I don't have much affinity for those games. I've never quite had the chance to play them. Sorry. Thank you, Mina. Well, first thing I would do, if you want to get into that, is look into what the restrictions for those sprites are, right? Because I cannot guarantee that they're going to be necessarily the same. One thing, if they do use less colors, then it has to be 8, which I don't think they use only 8 colors. Because of how the way restrictions generally work for stuff like that, they would need to have similar amount of color limits. Because the color limit is is a power of 2, right? So if it was let's say 8, then that means that characters have at most 7 colors. That doesn't seem likely. Right, that's something I did not cover at all because that's not the part of the portraits I specialize in. But when you're making when you're adding a character, it doesn't just have the portrait. You generally want a full sheet of what the character is, including the mini portraits, the one that have the really silly faces, and they kind of look like this. Well, they look exactly like this. In which you have the main portrait and then mouth animations, eye animations, and the mini portrait right here. If you're interested in getting into FE4 style pixel art, I think it's probably interesting. It's just that I don't really have much insight to give for you. I'm sorry. I'm glad you thought so. I was kind of a nervous wreck throughout it, and I definitely went through it a lot faster than I was expecting it to. It's my first time it's my first time at an EmblemCon event, so hey, that's still more move than FE the GBA Armor Knights. Sure. If you have some more questions, Garda, that I did not answer yet, please go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. This is super fascinating because I grew up with the GBA style games, Blazing Blade, Sacred Stones, and it's so cool to see someone being able to composite and create some using other assets. I never really figured that it's more a fact of like taking components from other parts and just kind of building off of that. It's really cool.
Well, you if you are able to make them fully custom, it's obviously like often better. It's even more unique, etc.
Hmm.
But if you don't have the time, often just making them like this proves that like gives you more than enough identity still.
Yeah. Um, Let me see here. There were some questions we caught here. Sorry if I repeat some of the ones that you were already answering during. Um, Jigo Joe was asking, did you have any prior art experience before spriting?
Yes, I actually did. I'm mostly. I mean, I would say that I'm mainly like primarily a digital artist before being a pixel artist. I've
Oh,
only gotten into pixel art for GBA, FEGBA like in the past year or so.
oh wow. So this is a very recent venture here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Let's see. Our moderator Mistral was asking, do you use any GBA games? Wait, do you use other G? Oh, I think you did answer. Sorry. Did you use any other GBA games with sprite styles for inspiration that aren't Fire Emblem? For example, like Advance Wars, Mega Man Battle Network, etc. Any outside inspirations?
I can use them as inspirations, but I would not. I wouldn't really use assets from any of them.
Hmm, gotcha. Yeah, these ones have a very unique style of shading compared to other games I've noticed. It's very unique to Fire Emblem on the Game Boy Advance, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I believe you answered the question about answering for like designing for more bulky characters, like with more armor or more muscular characters. Um, is there any like
Yeah.
specific style you use with those as well?
I mean, specific style. I guess I just be careful with who I use as a base. Like, for example, Garrick makes for a really good base for very bulky characters.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, you'd want to be careful not to use the same base for multiple characters in your ROM hack because that's gonna stand out. Um, the best advice I can give is like figure out which character from the base FEGBA games would look closest to, and then adapt to your character. And also, I did specify if you want to make like something in the FE8 style with the darker outlines, you can still grab like characters from you can still grab a character from SV7, but you need to be careful with the colors themselves. That the colors are going to be more faded, and you need to choose colors with more contrast. You need to change the outline to this outline, etc.
Hmm.
But otherwise, like as long as you're careful enough, it's fine. I think like the size restriction was almost more so just of a way to poke fun at the fact that Geb's portrait actually has a dent in it because of that restriction.
Yeah. I never really noticed. Yeah, the saturation is different between Sacred Stones and Binding and Blazing Blade. Like as they move forward, they added more saturation and in some places a more muted color palettes, but it still cohesively works pretty well.
Yeah. Um, a Tribal actually showed some during the presentation. Any sprite that wasn't credited was because I was the credit. But I can show some. I can show them again if you'd like. Um,
Yeah, go for it.
Maybe I mean, do I have any more? Oh, actually, I have this one that's pretty recent. Second. Hum. Get this one. There you go. This one's pretty cool.
Oh, very nice.
The heterochromia. Hmm. This one is one that I haven't shared publicly, but it's for one of the raw Macs I'm working on. And it's an older core mag.
Oh, I see it.
So yeah, this character looks a lot like a core mag because it's core mag. And it's a sequel ROM hack to FE8.
Is this the one that's like 20 or so years in the future from Sacred Stones?
It is.
Oh, I heard of that. I didn't know you were working on this one. That's awesome.
Where did you hear of it?
Maybe it was through EmblemCon. I'm trying to remember. There's been so much happening, but I know I heard someone was
Because
working
I'm the one that talked about it in the server like a few days ago.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's from. I feel like I heard from it earlier than that, but maybe it was just from that. My memory is fading on me now, but I was like, oh, that sounds so cool. I'd love to see someone imagine like what happens 20 years after the Demon King is killed off.
And there's this one also for that same ROM hack.
Oh, it's Calm.
Older Calm.
Is this like, is this essentially mostly the same cast of characters, or are there also new characters? I imagine there's also new characters introduced as well.
It's a bit of both. It's some new characters and some returning cast.
Gotcha.
What I mean, this isn't the best example, but think like how FE6 and FE7 both have Marcus.
Oh yeah, like Marcus.
So it's a bit more of an overlap, but you get the idea.
I see. Oh, that's so cool though.
So these are some of the ones. There is gonna be an older Innis. I haven't made him yet, but there is gonna be an older Innis. Although I cannot promise you it'll be a playable Innis. We haven't decided if it's just gonna be as an NPC or something.
Yeah, like a Elowood or Hector situation. They're just there, but not like
Yeah.
actually. Oh, okay. I chose the right. I'm on the right stream because I love hearing about people and their fan projects with Sacred Stones. It's so cool. I have to ask: is there are essentially all the characters integrated in some way, or is it just a select portion of them?
Not all the characters are going to be there.
Oh, okay.
Some because like some of these, like we assume that they passed during the 20 years. Some we assume are just not there for plot reasons.
Yeah.
And because the main character is gonna be like someone completely new, and so we don't want like the main character to just be overshadowed by the fact that the whole cast is a cast of people that people know.
Yeah, that's always tricky when you're having a returning cast. It's like you don't want to have the main character be less important than the ones that you knew from the previous title if you're doing a time skip like this.
There is one more older character that I want to share because I really like him.
Oh.
So I'm gonna share him here.
Who could it be?
Here you go.
Hey, it's Ross.
Yeah.
He's got, oh man, taking after his dad. That's awesome. Big Ross, the man himself.
I said only one more. I'm sorry, Manatiki. I'm sorry.
We'll have to wait for more at a later date. But this preview is so cool. I love how you've interpreted them as older units.
I can show you what the main character looks like, though. That's not because that's not an older unit. That's just someone new.
Sure.
There you go. That's the main character.
Is this related? Is this character related to Dussel?
How did you guess?
It's all in the color palette. You did such a good job following the color palette of Dusel that I was like, is this like their son or something?
Yep, it is Dusel's son.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, Dusel's like honestly one of my favorite characters from Sacred Stones. They have such a unique relevancy to the plot. And so I'm going to be really interested to see like how this character relates to the overall scheme of the story. Wow. Let's see. I had a question actually.
Sure.
So earlier you were showing some of the mini portraits as well. I may have missed this. Do you also do like those mini portraits? Do you happen to have done any of the mini portraits for these characters?
I've done a few, but generally I'm not the one that ends up making them.
Oh, okay. Because those are always so interesting. Because like, I was wondering like, do you have
Yeah,
to
they're
like,
silly.
do you have to like scale it down and then kind of redraw it from there, or do you just kind of do it
Yeah,
from? Okay.
that's generally what I do. Actually, maybe that's not what everyone does, but that's what I do. If when I make them is like I just take the portrait, scale it down to the size of a mini mug, and then just draw over it, remake the eye so that it fits better.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. Like, if I were to like, for example, try it on like the character we made here, this one.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably like just take this, like so this would be like kind of the size we want, and then I would just draw over it with the outline. But
it doesn't
to be
like
entirely honest, that's not the part I focus on generally, because we have someone on the team that is the one that makes the eyes and mouth animations, and they also make the mini mugs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was so curious because like when I was younger playing this, I thought they literally just shrunk it down, but that's not how pixels work. In pixelization, they have to actually have all the resolution
Right,
match.
they make it look shrunk, but like
It's very clever.
and also, but that also allows them to give some of them more personality. For example, one that comes to mind is Colmes, where his mini mug actually has he has a bit of a grin on it.
Yeah.
Like, there you go. See?
The little smirk.
Exactly.
I love the mini ones, and I've grown more fond of them over the years. Like, they all have the same beady eyes, the very simplistic eyes, but they all have so much more expression to them sometimes, whether they're smiling or kind of angry looking.
Honestly, I've seen this once, and now I can never unsee it. Garcia is doing a cat face on his mini mug.
Oh my, it's a cat face. Because the side profile kind of masks it though, huh?
because he has like an Oa face. Because he's doing this with his mouth. So he's doing a cat face.
That's so funny. Yeah, the side profiles are so uncommon, honestly. Like with Ismayer and with Garcia, you don't see those as often as the like 45-degree turn angle.
There's Selena is very close to being side profile, not exactly, but really close. There's Morva, which is a side profile. They're not very common, but there's some of them. Yeah.
Evelyn is also, yeah. Sean's saying there needs to be an artist selling acrylics of the mini mugs. I've done this is funny enough. My only experience with sprite work with this honestly is when I do perler beads. So I would like arrange the beads and kind of do that's more so like the actual like in battle sprites though. But that's definitely helped me to get an understanding and appreciation of like the kind of work that goes into like the bigger ones, like the portraits that you do here.
Yeah, well, like right now I'm definitely not like I would realistically want to spend more times on the portrait that I'm doing now. Right now I'm kind of going through quickly just to like try to go through as many things as I can in the time of the panel, but like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Man, I should probably. I'm always contemplating if I should like do anything with Perler Beats for EmblemCon, but I'm just like, I don't know. I'd love to sell some sprites. But yeah, your this is such a cool way to look at and get an appreciation for what goes into Fire Emblem on the Game Boy Advance. Like these kind of sprite works are so cool. Do you have any kind of like favorite or that you think are the most well-made portraits in the Game Boy Advance titles?
Ooh, honestly, I'm gonna go back to it again, but like FE8 really has a great way of using its darker colors. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, I'm gonna look at um Seth, Seth's portrait. Like, a lot of it uses the outline color as the main color of the portrait. Like, a lot of it is just the outline color, but
Oh yeah.
that's because he wears a very dark purple outfit, right?
Right.
And it's really impressive how they make it look good, even though, like, if you look at it for more than a second, like, it's a flat color, right?
It's
This
so
is just a
flat.
flat, yeah, it's a flat purple. But like, if you like when playing the game, you wouldn't really pay attention. You wouldn't really notice, like, oh, weird, right?
It fits so naturally. Yeah, I don't really notice it until you point it
Exactly.
out.
Right. Like, and another character that does this is Ford. Ford does the exact same thing. Ford has a purple undershirt, and it's the exact same thing.
Oh yeah, that's true. And you said the maximum amount of colors they can use is 15 per portrait?
Yes.
And this way they kind of optimize it a bit because I'm assuming they
Yes,
use
exactly.
fewer than that. Yeah.
I mean, like here, there's 3 in the hair. There's a single white one here, which I don't like when they do that, but sometimes they do. That's fine.
Hmm.
So they have 1 white here. There's 3 blues in the armor. I think there's 2 custom ones in here. Um, I think they would have been able to afford 1 extra color, but you know,
Mm-hmm. Wow,
like,
that's awesome.
it's also like it really, like, because we know, like, right now exactly how the restrictions are. Maybe like when they were making it, it wasn't as clear. Like, maybe there were gonna be restrictions with the number of colors on screens, etc. And maybe they
Right.
wanted to be careful with that, you know. And
Yeah.
so maybe that's why they wanted to not cut it as close every time. It's we go in from a context of knowing what the characters will, like, we know exactly what the restrictions are, and when they're making the game, like, it's harder for them to know exactly from the start, like, how close they can cut it.
Yeah. It's all that artistic touch too, because even as it is right here, like our eyes, we kind of fill in the gaps for ourselves. Like we kind of see where the folds might be, just kind of glancing at it, not paying too much attention to it. It's very clever.
Actually, you know what, I've chosen a favorite, and yeah, I'm gonna and it's a character we've mentioned earlier already.
Oh, there he is. I had a feeling when you said that.
It's, yeah, I just love, like, how, like, the thing that impresses me most in this is the reuse of colors, because
Mhm.
the white streaks in his hair i- is the same white that he has on the trims of his armor,
Oh yeah, it's true.
and this purple here is the same that he has on the trim of his armor as well.
That's so it's so aesthetically pleasing that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and like it gives more cohesion overall to the portrait, and also like I'm a sucker for purple, so I love purple.
I also just appreciate like you don't see older characters that are playable like this so often, and so using the color palette to also give the face structure that's so and have it be so
Right,
detailed. Yeah, I don't know. That's very
and
valid
that's
for a favorite
also
one.
something that's also one thing that I'm not. I won't say I'm struggling with, but like that I have to pay attention to when making those older character designs on the FEA sequel.
Mhm.
Like I need to make sure that the characters look older, actually. Like, and like that's the thing with Cormac. I gave him more things in his on his head. I give him a beard. Colm I also made look older that way.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah.
Those are very nice. Oh man, I'm always just such a
Oh,
I love just learning about these as a fellow artist and just kind of learning the finer details of this. It's very cool.
do you have any more questions before we wrap up, or?
I don't think I had any more listed. That was pretty much everything that we caught, and I think Chad has also been discussing things as well. Like I think Aaron was asking, are there any resources that compile different face shapes in those sprites, like how the sprites have different chins and noses? And I think they
Um,
mentioned things like FE Portrait Maker. I think is that a good one to dabble with if you want to make portraits as well?
right. I would not advise this to make an end result because as we saw, like if you use a character creator, you end up with results like this one where there's holes in the hair, it's unshaded, etc.
Right.
But as a basis, like if you want to position stuff on the character, it can help, and then you can use it as a base and then edit it with the stuff we've learned today and make characters that have more cohesive design, no holes in the hair, shading under the hair, etc. And and then one more thing that you can do by taking assets manually instead of using the character creator is that you can use like multiple aspects. Like if you wanted to, for example, only take this medallion of Ismail's head, you could. If you only wanted to take the cape of one character but not the rest, you could. And if you use the character creator, well, there's it doesn't separate assets this way.
Ooh, very nice. Oh man. Well, that does bring us toward the end of the hour. Stylish, is there anything else that you'd like to let people know, or to any other bits of info that you'd like to share with us before we wrap up here?
Let me think. No, I mean I've covered pretty much most everything, and things that I forgot. Then people that ask questions. If I've done full customs, I've done one or two, and they take so long, so long. I've done full customs, but whew.
I can't imagine. All right. Well, everybody, thank you all for joining us here today. Wanted to mention real quick as well, as you might know, during EmblemCon, we are raising money for charity. This year, all donations are going to Direct Relief. They are a nonprofit humanitarian organization whose mission is to improve the lives of people in poverty or emergency situations by providing medical resources. You can scan the QR code on screen or type exclamation donate in chat for a link to our Tiltify. Your donations will enter you into a raffle where you can then win art from our wonderful friends in the Artist Alley. Type exclamation raffle to learn some more from there. Our goal is $1,000 and we're more than halfway there. I know we can definitely reach that before the end of the events. Thank you to everyone who's been donating thus far, and thank you, Stylish, for joining us for this year for the events.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone, stay tuned for our next panel. We've got an hour break until we come back to look at beta builds in Fire Emblem. I'll be back to run that one as well. Okay, everyone, take care. We'll see you soon.
See you.